Umlen and Ablat Gemara. Today's daf is daf pei Dalid. It still continues on with Agadata. We were learning all about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's son Rabbi Lazar, and Lag B'Omer is coming up this Sunday. So we learned about his job that he did, which wasn't very complimentary of catching thieves, including Jewish thieves, and handing them over to the government, where they would usually execute them. And yeah, the last thing we talked about was about how handsome some of the Amoraim were, and we talked also about the physical size of Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi. And we talk about there also the size. It says we talk about the size of a certain part of their anatomy, whether it's the size of 9 kavin or every day. So the Ritva says that we were talking about actually is the size of their biceps and triceps. And if you want to know how big someone is, you look at their biceps, you measure that, it gives you an indication how big they are. So we're up to the Gemara here. The last thing we learned here, Rabbi Yochanan did not have a beard. So we're up to Rabbi Yochanan, the last word of the line is Rabbi, is about 30 lines on the top of the page. Rabbi Yochanan have a Ozil v'Yosef Asharet Tefillah. We had the same Gemara practically in Brachas. Rabbi Yochanan would sit there at the gates of Tefillah, by the mikveh, and Amadi said, "Kisalkim noises on Tefillah is mitzvah when the Yiddish women go out of the mikveh, they go home. Lefogbi, I want them to meet me first. Geheicha de level lebeni shapiri kavasi. They should have handsome children like me. Mira raisa kavasi, learning Torah like me. Now, Lecheri can't be over here handsome physically. Why and what would Rabbi Yochanan place an emphasis on being handsome even before being a scholar in Torah? So it must be in Ruchnis that they should be a Baal Midas, a good person, and also they should be a scholar and learn Torah. And being a good person is even takes precedence that a ched is called Torah. All these women coming out, they see this handsome Rabbi Yochanan. We said Rabbi Yochanan so handsome. Aren't you worried about Ein Hara? All the Yidden come from Yosef. Ein Hara doesn't affect us. As the Gemara says now, if you don't believe in Ein Haras, they don't really affect you. Rashi and Tosfos doesn't affect you at all. Rashi and the Rashbam doesn't affect you at all, or like Kolkach doesn't affect you that much. You see, it says and this charming person Yosef and the charming person Aliyoin. I mean Aliyoin. I'll take Aliyoin above the eye. Now in the Gemara in Brachas we have a similar story besides him also of Gidl that he also sat by the mikveh. And then Gemara said Gidl, what about the Yetzer Hara? And he said, and he asked, to me, all the women look like white geese. In other words, they don't have Yetzer Hara for it. But we don't ask him Rabbi Yochanan. And then the first one will want to know why they don't ask Rabbi Yochanan. But I don't see anybody answering this. But based on the Gemara, we learned that Rabbi Yochanan had to have a fork to lift his eyebrows. He actually couldn't see them. And therefore, there was no problem for Yetzer Hara. That's Pashut Pshat. He couldn't see them. Tosfos, he wants to know, it says that, elsewhere that it's no good to meet women when they come out of the mikveh and so on and so forth. So Tosfos makes a difference if you just happen to meet them or he planned to be there in the first place. It wasn't like anything that happened. Or there's talking about they came out of the mikveh naked. However, we learn from Halach a very big machlekes in Halach and Siman Ayin Heish which talks about sneeze. And I once told you, it always bothered me why there's no a separate pedic for the Siman Shalach about sneeze. It's all those din in Krishma. All those din about you're not allowed to say Krishma in front of a woman that's naked and all these laws. What about a woman? Can a woman say Krishma in front of another woman who's dressed the way Shalach says a man shouldn't? In other words, all of the chashas of tznius that it affects a man. Does it also? Yeah, Hirhudim. Does it affect a woman as well? All these dinim that a man gonna have Hirhudim is the same din by women. Not big machlekes and poskim. And one of the rayas that they say it doesn't is from right here. We have a problem of Gidl, how he was able to look at the women. Tells us the problem how Rabbi Yochanan looked at the women. How come there's no problem with women looking at Rabbi Yochanan? He wanted every woman to look at him, see how handsome he is, and they'll daven that they should have a handsome person. Yeah. So he wants them to have an image of him. Yeah, but fact is, they're not allowed to look at a man. If a woman is not allowed to look at a man, just like a man is not allowed to look at a woman, what do you mean he sat there and they're all looking at him? So they bring a knife from here. So what's the problem? He's looking at them. He's doing it for L'Shem Shemaim. It works both ways. So they bring a knife from here that there's no issue for a woman at all to look at a man. And Emerson in the Yalkut Shemaim brings a machlekes Tanoim. It is an issue for a woman to look at a man or a man look at a woman. For a woman to look at a man or not. But one of the rights, they say he allows this from right here. On the other hand, because he had eyebrows down all the way to his below his eyes, you couldn't see much of his face. So they wouldn't be looking at a full person. Maybe that's different. That's why you have to have a mechitza that you can't see either way. The Rebbe calls that mechitza, tricks. Oh, my sister, yeah, we had him designed the biches. Put him on the shoulder.
So was it a fashion of the times to have giant eyebrows to be handsome?
No, he didn't. Yesterday I just speculated because he didn't have a beard, so this is a substitute for his beard. I mean, I just speculated, but absolutely no basis for that. But I don't know why he had the long eyebrows. But unfortunately, Birchen had a very sorry end, as we'll see in the Gemara right now. Let's continue. We learned that there's no Ein Hara from the following part. It's mad dog. I'm just like fish in the ocean. My most of water covers them. You can't see them in Ein Shel, you can't affect them. After that, I can. So some people want to say that Ein Hara only works if you can see directly the person. But if you're wearing a cover, there's something in between. The Ein Hara doesn't affect it. It's a metaphysical thing. It's not something that's tangible or anything else. One day. In English, we call it being jinxed. One day, Rabbi Yechon was swimming in the Jordan. Shlokish saw him. He jumped in afterwards. Now, why did he jump in the water to him? To steal from him? He's swimming in the water. There's nothing on him. Could have gone to the shore like they go and steal his things. So one of the unfortunate things, Chida, who actually wants to say, because Rabbi Yechon had no beard, and from far away looked like a woman, and he was very handsome. He thought that she was a woman. He wanted to take him captive. When he came close, he saw this is Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan said to him, you use your strength to learn Torah, or use Torah to dampen your Yetzer Hara here. The beauty belongs to women. He had the bach. If you come back with me, my sister's even nice hands on me. I'll ask her to see if she wants to marry you. He accepted it. He wanted to go back and get his clothes. He couldn't swim back. He didn't have the strength. Akarya Vasnaya, he started learning. And Rashi says, why? Because Torah Mateshes Koichas, just accepting the yoke of Torah physically weakened him. Tosha brings it. Rabbeinu Tam has a shit to throw out Shas. Not like we always learned that Shlokish was the head of robbers, bandits, or an Akra, whatever it is, and then he became. We also learned somewhere else that he did magic. Then he became a big Amaida. Tosha says the Lashon here. He says, why don't you come back with me? Come back means he was an Amaida already before. He learned by Rabbi Shia. He was a big Talmid Chacham, and then somehow or another he became the head of thieves. And then Rabbi Yechon said to him, if you return back, not come back physically with me to the shore. If you return back to Yiddishkeit, blah blah blah. That's Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam should be here in Yavamas and other places. It brings 3-4 places. Brings rayas. Anyway, Chumash was nice. Was shoving Avraham, became a big man. One day have a miflug medrash. One day the Lingvei Medrash. The following din: Hasayev, Hasakin, Bahapigim, Baharema, different kinds of knives and swords and spears, and magel yad, and magel cuts, and different kinds of sickles, hands, and the field. When do we say it's been completed? This keli and now it's ready, susceptible to receive tumah. So the mishaz mamalachta, when you finish it, when is it finished? The main mistake mamalachta. Birchel says mishit tzar from the kipshim. As soon as you take them out of the fire, and the Shlokish says mishiyachsim ma'im. No, after the fire you put them in the water and they shine. Now, when you go to fight a war, or when you're if you can intimidate, you'd rather not fight. If you can intimidate your enemies, far better. And when do you intimidate them? When the sun shines off it and glistens and it looks so sharp and everything else. You need that water on it. You used to be a robber, so you know the gever, you know the weapons. What intimidates better than me. Now, it can't be Rabbi Yechon meant literally what he said, because we learned before Leisanu, you're not reminded about Shuvah of his past. What he was trying to say is in a complimentary way. You're right, because you know better than I do, and I'm going to agree with you that that's what it is. But the Shlokish misunderstood him. The Shlokish thought he was poking from the Shlokish. There's something in an argument, he's becoming personal. So the Shlokish, that's what was happening here. Amalei Maya Hanadli, so the Shlokish, what I benefit from all of this? If you can continuously remind me of my past. I mean, there's many different ways of shot in the conversation. I'm just giving you one away. They used to call me Rebbe, now they call me Rebbe. So Rashi says, I was the head of the gangster, they call me Rebbe, and I come here. I don't get any more covetous. What do I get from all this? Tosha says, no. I used to be called Rebbe before I became a robber. and then I became a rabbi, and you brought me back. But what am I'm no better now than before because you're giving me just as much carbon. What do you think I left in the first place for? I left because something was going wrong, and said he's happy now. Amalei ahanilach, I didn't help you. I helped you, brought you close to the Yiddishkeit. So someone would say that he's saying I became frum mitzvah lavlahanas because I have no personal know from this. The reason why I became frum is because this is Abishter one. So what are you poking fun of me personally? Who I was? What's the difference? And Rabbi Yechina says you did personally benefit from it as well. Besides the midst of everything else, you became a frum Yid. They both became very sorry. Rabbi Yechina became very upset. As if Shlock is accusing him that what did you do all this for? You did it. His Cholish physically Shlock became sick. Also, after Kabachia came along, Rabbi Yechine's sister and said, your brother-in-law is sick. I didn't help. She said to him, I have a son, your nephew. There's a pasuk. Don't worry about it. Let you be a yosem. I'll take care of him. I say, what about me? Don't worry, I'll take care of you. No, nafshe. Before I have a hard time understanding how can you be such a total off not to accept mechila when you say you have over there in Kippur, you have to accept mechila and everything else. So there's someone said the conversation never happened. This is what in his mind he was thinking through this, as if the sister came, as if the sister came to think, and while he was angry, saying, "Oh, I could still take care of them." Nobody actually asked him physically for mechila. Then Shloki passed away. We tried a few weeks ago. We had Meima passed away from Abashi. Rabbi killed the Shlokish.
How's your sefer coming in?
It wasn't me, it was somebody else. Yeah. The Havik was very upset. Basrei Tulip really bothered him. The first, we had it in the end of Kamba where Rabbi Yechon killed Rav Kana, but then the next day was Mechai Mason. Why wasn't he Mechai Mason and Shlokish? So either this is a long time later. Over there, here he calmed down straight away. Here he was upset for a long time, and by the time he decided, he's no longer upset. It was too late already. Or over there, he made a mistake. Remember, he had a smirk fixed. He thought it was a smirk, but really he had a split in his lips. Here, he never accepted the Shlokish's version of what he meant. It's the words that hurt, and there's a temp.
It's like when the Rambam was Mechai Mason that Zayda, the local shots.
Yeah, but this time he should have.
But every time miracles happen.
Yeah, who's going to go calm him down? He needs to do something. Nezer Abelazar ben Pedas. We have all over Shas Abelazar. The Mechad Nishmaita. He's very sharp. He can learn with Rabbi Yechon. Also, Yezakamei. He sat before Rabbi Yechon. Kom Milsu Davi. Rabbi Yechon. Tanyim Sayelach. He brought it out to him. Omar At Kvar Lekisha Balakisha. Are you comparing yourself to Beis Lakish? The Kavgar Lekisha Balakisha. Kavamina Milsa. Whenever I said something, Havi Maxley Esin Vabo Kushyosa. He asked me 24 questions. Mafrikinle Esin Vabo Pruke. And he teased out of me 24 answers. Between the two of us, we came to a cloudkite. But on the time, say, look, I know, right? I don't need you to tell me. Now, this is very hard to understand because throughout Bava Metzia, we have Rabbi Lazar arguing with Rabbi Yechon constantly. So what Mr. Boldi become all Rabbi Yechon would say should have said to him, Rabbi Lazar, I don't need you to agree with me. I want you to continue arguing. Don't be worried, and then we're going to have a good time. I don't understand what happened here. Exactly. So after that, he said, I don't need that, like he said right here. Let's learn like we always learn. You argue with me, because you argue with him in halacha all the time. All the time. It's almost like, it's not like if you're a Shmuel or if you're a Marab, where he said what they said and he agreed with them usually. Today, Rabbi Lazar used to argue Rabbi Yechon all the time. Anyway, Rabbi Azul the Karda Manu Kabach, Rabbi Yechon was going out of his mind, ripping his clothes and crying. Hey, Chad Barlakisha, hey, Chad, where are you? And he was screaming at the Shav Daitim until he lost his mind. And he passed away. Big halach you learn from this. She passed away. Quran says in the Durin of Mem that when the maid for Ksubas, we had the maid daven that Rebbe should pass away. Del Yoin should go because he was a sad, terrible sad. Every time he gets thrown off and go to the bathroom. So Moshe finds another Magna halachas one to talk about. Just like you're allowed to daven for someone who's in terrible pain to pass away. Now I'll take away the medicine that keeps somebody support, that keeps somebody alive. But let's say if you have to continue giving them medicine to continue going, can you stop giving them new medicine? Or now they came up with a machine at Yisrael where every single morning you have to turn on the life support. The way it works here is the life support goes on forever. You got to pull it out to stop it, and which is a big problem. What they do is every morning you have to turn it on, But he wants to turn it on, or maybe yeah. So therefore, it's a different shayla. If he's brain dead, whatever it is, exactly. As and based on this Gemara right here, that they daven the person should pass away. According to the Shami, 3.5 years he was going this way. 3.5 years. It wasn't like for 5 minutes.
The Shas, this whole, whether it would actually happen, or whether it was a conversation he was thinking through about the Nakula, he didn't see what's going to
be. Must have been very angry for a long time. He got angry with Kana. You see, they had a temper. Got angry with Kana. They got angry with that Talmud that said to him about will be gold, things will grow, Mashiach will come, and the service. He had a temper. Remember, Rabbi Yosef said all the terrible things about a person. He said all the will be captain, istiness. 3 things. Anyway, let's continue. Getting back to the Elazar Shimon. Even though all of this he made that operation and his stomach, everything right, no worms, he wasn't comfortable because he killed a person, even though the guy deserved it, but it's not for the reasons that he did. He accepted upon himself all kinds of pain as a kapara. But every night he would bring 60 different pieces of felt. And every morning they would take out 60 things full of blood. They were full of blood. He was like worms coming in and eating them and bleeding. The kiva and he got hell better. There's a wife made for him 60 different kinds of figs, and body somehow or another cured him. She did not let him go to base of medrash because he was so sour. She didn't want the Rabbanan to keep pressing him with questions. But at night, now what happened was, at night, every night, he would talk to all of the doors. He said, my brothers, my friends, come and bite me. But Safra in the morning would take Zila, go away, I gotta learn Torah now. One day, and the wife was working very hard the whole day. She was cooking all these figs. Yeah, Rabbi Shimon for kapara for that koivas that he gave in. When the guy said to him, "You chaymitz ben yain," he got so angry he gave him over. Yeah, Rezubi the Gemara. One day, Shama Devisu, the wife, heard the conversation. Suddenly she realized he wasn't in pain because he was in pain. He brought it on himself. So what's machis with sugar? Big cake cooking him a whole day in the kitchen. You brought this on yourself. Kilisa mamashal beis abba. We lost all our money. Had to buy so many figs and shematas and everything else. Imre day she walked out on him. Ozala beis. Now she went back to her family. They were quite well to do, and she lived with the family. Sliko. But also hanach shisa sefonoi. So when the people saw that he was alone and they had a lot of respect for the Abelazar of Shimon, so these sailors came. They brought him 60 servants instead of one wife. He had now 60 servants to help him. To Nikita Shisan Arniki, they came with 60 big wallets of money. But Abdullah Shisamini lived on. They made 60 different kinds of these figs. But Ochli ate it. One day, the wife wants to know how is her husband coping without her. She sent the daughter, Zili, go and Bucky Babu, go check out your father. How's he doing? Michael Abed, Edna. What is it today? After she went, Zili. So that Abelazar saw the daughter. He said, "Go. I'm really going to tell your mother, Shalanu Gadol Shalom, that I am now wealthier than her whole family all put together." The way he's thanking his wife for leaving, so the people had Rachmanis. She was there, nobody had Rachmanis. Kari Nafshi. You'll see later. She came back. Kari Nafshi. He said about himself, that my trader was like these ships. My food, my bachmanasa came from somewhere out of the left field. He never anticipated this was going to happen. He ate and drank and he became healthy. Not for the madrasha. Now he started going to yeshiva and let him go to yeshiva. He went to yeshiva. That day, women came with 60 different shades of, to see whether they're tummy dam need or not. Is this the blood of a need? It's not exactly red. It's off red, brownish, what it is, yellowish. Taharino. He's metied every one of them. How they come out about it? They all laughed at him. It's impossible that all 60 of them should be tired. Now, he was an unbelievable bucky in these things, and you need a lot of training in seeing, the different shades of blood. Who, I'll tell you what, if I'm right, every one of them now is going to have the next child will be a boy. If not, at least one girl should be amongst them. Turned out to be that all of them were males. And every one of them called their son Elazar, the name of Rav Elazar Bar Shimon. So look what the Romans did. Look what this Russia caused. By making him the head of the Ganavim, the whole story that happened, he couldn't go to yeshiva because when he was in the base of Medrash, while his wife was at home, how many women went and thought, "Oh, let's be Machmed, maybe I'm still in the," and because they had no one to ask, no one knew, or anybody else would have rather be said, "Oh, I don't know. Okay, what's the big deal? I'll say it's tummy." So the Violet, remember, you when are you most fertile? Right after they live tefillah. But if you push over the tefillah another number of days, you miss the period. Yeah, exactly. So then, so he said, look, because of this Malchus, look how many Yidden were not born. You have a konicha nafshe when he passed away. He said to his wife. It's clear his wife came back home. He said to his wife, I know the rabbis are very upset with me for what I did. They're not going to bury me properly. So do me a favor. Leave me in the attic after I pass away. Don't worry about it. The mother of Yonason told me, the wife of Rabbi told him, they say it wasn't less than 18 years, but light fame thing, and more than 20 years. He stayed up in the attic. She can't remember, which is a bit hard to understand how long her husband died. But maybe the poskim,
the mother of Yonason, couldn't remember the conversation.
Could be the poskim ag. You're right. It could be. Maybe that's true. No, the poskim as of course a poskim. It's a din in the Torah. You have to cover tik badenu. We learned in Sanhedrin. We learned Sanhedrin above the mitzvah of the Torah to bury someone. What do you mean? She's left him 18 years up in the attic. So the Gemara was very interesting. Gemara Sanhedrin. The whole chakira. Why do you have to bury someone? For the mason, for the chaim, is it a kapara, and so on and so forth. Kapara he didn't need, and since this is covered hameis, as you'll soon see what he did while he was upstairs after he passed away. Since it's covered hameis, there's no mitzvah of covered tikkunen.
Well, certainly say he wanted to give a kind of an
Yeah, that's what we got. Not for cat. Yeah, we want. As he said, yeah, I could have gone to Shemaim. Anyway, Kevin Selikta, when she would, go up there to the upstairs, she would check him out by pulling his hair. When she pulled the hair out, have it also dama. Now we know that it's impossible to bleed once you pass away, but he was still bleeding. In other words, his mom was still, living. One day, she saw a worm crawling out there. After so many years, finally a worm. She got scared that maybe his body's going to decompose. She should bury him. She also felt bad. Maybe something went wrong. So this is what the woman is telling the other woman. He came to me in a dream. He said to me, you know what happened there? It's not bad. One day, I heard somebody insulting a rabbi. I didn't get up to protest the way I should have. To my ear, who heard it, now being punished. When two people had a din Torah, have a kaima ababa. They would stand outside. Say this guy would say, there was a litigant, there was a plaintiff, the litigant and the other person was litigating. He would say his side of the story, or Mount Milsey side. Nothing kolam on and the voice would come out from upstairs where Rabbi Elazar was. Each playing at the chai before the zakai. And that's what used to happen. So he used to pass. Unfortunately, we have a problem here as well. We know that so they want to say, I can't remember if they want to say or not. No, I don't. They have other answers. But the even the Rambam doesn't pass like Rabbah. We'll learn later about Metzia. The Rabbah, the last word that he said in his life was Torah, when the Eibishter had the Makamif with Mesip Terakia. The Eibishter was arguing with the Shemaim, arguing with Malachim, and he said, the Eibishter said, okay, we can't pass unless that's somebody who's alive. And the last word that came out of Rabbah's mouth was Torah, which is like the Eibishter. And the Rambam passed like the Malachim. So everyone has a difficulty with the Rambam. But the Kesher Mishnah says, because the Rabbah's last word was Torah, he has a din of a Shchimra. And the Shchimra is Torah Lebeshemayim. That's what he says there. So how can you? The word here is when it comes to a din Torah, with a thing called we can accept anything we want. We can accept that your father should be the dayan. A father can be a dayan, but if we're makabel on ourselves that this person should be a dayan, we can be makabel. So if they were makabel that we're happy to follow whatever psak comes out, even though Torah B'Shemayim, but we're happy to accept it, then it's good. So this only din Torah of mummies. One day I have a one day that his wife had an argument with his neighbor. Take it by. So the neighbor said, "Oh, because she knew already that you also should die with a curse, should be buried. I'm an abundant cool, and abundant even know kula high. Even though we don't like what he did, but this passage of Shimon Chay's son, Ikram Shimon Chay is Chazal B'Chamim. Shimon Chay came to a dream. I'm a pray dach is when they can have one little pray between you. The others will be asleep. Don't bring it to me. The people of Barya did not allow the Rabbanon to take his body away. The whole Shani to have a 9 of as long as he was upstairs in the attic. Not one bad animal, evil animal came into town to threaten them. One day, Mali and Kippur have it, but the rabbis wanted to bury him. It was Erev Kippur. Have it treated. Everybody was busy Erev Kippur getting ready. Have a surah seconds. Shadu Rabbanon b'nei Bidi to people from another town. They said, go sneak into the house and steal his bed. And they brought him to the cave of Rab Shimon in Miron. They found the snake that circled the gravesite of Rab Shimon. Open your mouth, let the sun go to the father. They opened up. Now that she's an almana, Rab Shimon's wife is an almana, and get buried her husband, Rebbe wanted to marry her. Rebbe said, and Rebbe must have been old already because he lived together with Rab Shimon and Yeshiva together, and he proposed. It must be 20 years later. Yeah, these are older people, but he was must have been a big tzaddikus. So she said back then, so if she was able to speak that way to Rebbe, then she was a pretty big tzaddikus, so she could talk that way. I, who was with a vow of something so holy, should step down and live with you. And so they say, the Modi base of Tola in a place where the owner of the house used to hang up his weapons and his whatever he needed there, is kul beraya kul satola. So you want also that what do you call it? Hang up other things on there. One of his workers can't do that. So that you want the shepherd to hang up his words there, you can't do that. So he sent back to her, and he did God many. You're right, Toyd was greater than me. I will be me God many. Is he greater than me? And we say that he was a very humble person. Sholcheb, I guess when you want to have a shidduch, you no hold barred. Sholchele, she said back to him, on the contrary, I don't know if he was greater than you. Who am I to measure? But the Maisim Yedina, the Kabbalah Yisuda, but Yisuda. He accepted upon himself Yisudim. He was a decent person. But sat on chairs. Remember, everyone used to sit in the ground. Having more Megillah. Yossi Kamai, the Satir of Shimon of Rebbe, Aara. Makshum Mefarki, they were asking and answering. Amri Mimain on the Shoisin, name Yoshel Gabekarka. So Rebbe and Allah Shimon in class together, they would ask them a whole bunch of questions. And finally, the Talmidim said, or the Rabbeim said, these are the greatest Talmidim that sing on the ground like everybody else. All those have Soli. They picked these chairs up. Askinu. So Abelazar Shimon and Rebbe sat on the chair now, equal to the Rosh Yeshivas. I have only one preda. Of the men, it'll be 9 horror. Everybody sees that all the students on the ground and my son is sitting in the chair, it'll be 9 horror. And 9 horror that he will affect him. So you see in the Gemara say how they were so careful about ayin horrors. They put him back in the ground. So the Rebbe has a father who's worried about him, so they put him on the ground. Misha ain't but Abelazar passed away already. Who's going to take care of him? He'll be ayin horror, be affected. Yamus. He felt bad. No, Rabbi Shimon did not believe in 9 horrors. Rebbe and his family believed in 9 horrors, and Rabbi Shimon did not believe in 9 horrors, like Mar said in Kufi Gimel in the Psachim. So therefore he was upset. Why you put me on the ground for? I want to sit on the chair. So he said, they considered me equal to me. Till that day, so till that day, whatever Rebbe said to argue with his teachers, Rabbi brought more proof to support the Rebbe. From that day onwards, Rabbi was so upset. And the only reason why you put him on the floor is because of Rebbe. Whenever Rebbe said to his teachers, I have a question on you. That's a question. Hey, I'll tell you why you're wrong and the teachers are right. No, he turned against me. And he was always right. So his scholarship was far greater than mine. And he kept them piling up questions, and some of them were, good questions, and they were just to harass me. Chodesh died to the Rebbe, so Rebbe felt terrible. My friend turned against me. Also, we told his father, don't feel bad. Who Ari ben Ari? He's a lion, the son of a lion. Abelazar, but Shimon. Ari ben Shul. I'm only a Shul. I know Rebbe Shloisha and Nifsnasan name that three people who were completely humble. And Abba, my own father, after this story, he called himself a Shul compared to Rebbe and to Rebbe Elazar. Well, B'nai Pseder, remember Gemara in Pesachim of Samavah, when the B'nai Pseder didn't know Pesach falls on Shabbos, whether you bring a carbon or you don't bring a carbon, and they waited for Hill who came from Babel, and Hill told them. Yeah, so then once the Hill came, they resigned from their position, and Hill became the Nasi, and the rest is history. The Yonasan ben Shaul Amel son Yonasan told David, "You'll become king, and I'll become your deputy." And even though he was he was entitled to be the next line, exactly. David just said, he made Hill the Nasi. And Yonasan ben Shaul become like David, so you be the king, I'll be your deputy. So who says, Dilma Yonasan ben Shaul, the Chaza, the God and Alma Basa David. Maybe Yonasan ben Shaul saw that the population was following David, so he was smart. Because he was humble. He knew that if he became king, nobody would listen to him anyway. And B'nai say, "Now the Chazal Hill, they saw Hill is a much bigger scholar, and then they'll catch him out. It'll be embarrassing." Reb Shimon Gamliel Vade, and it's not one thing for sure. Reb Shimon Gamliel definitely was an honor. Rebbe said, "Oh, I see you stood him a very good look. You had no worms, Reb Elazar, but Reb Shimon, I'll also take you stood him. Kabbalah Klesa Shani, 13 years. Shis B'tzmirta, 6 of them were that he couldn't go to the bathroom properly, and B'sheva B'tzaparna, and 7 in his mouth and his jaws, and he had toothaches, which are very painful. Others say Shiva, but 7 years B'tzmirta, B'shit B'tzaparna, 6 couldn't go to the bathroom properly. Ahurayu Rebbe, the person who took care of the stable manager of Rebbe, having such a wealthy person, he was greater than her Malka, he had full of horses there. Whenever he gave food, straw, whatever it is, food to the animals, so then what do you call it? The horses made noise that you can hear 3 clouds, so many horses, and yet have a mechavan. He was such a mensch. He would time it. The Rebbe, he shaited the Ayel Rebbe the Rami. He would make sure that he gave them food exactly when he knew that he was told that Rebbe was about to go to the bathroom, because Rebbe was such pain. No, Rebbe was such pain. He didn't want anyone to hear the pain that Rebbe was in. So he had his horses neighing and to make too much noise. I feel and even despite that, the Rebbe's pain, the Shamal and the Chusayama, they were out in the sea, they would hear screaming. I feel Hachi stood at Rabbi Shimon Adif from the Rebbe. Rabbi Shimon's pain was greater. Why? Because Rabbi Shimon, he was in control. He brought them in at night. He sent them away in the morning. So you assume that he was in total control. But the Rebbe had a story, an incident that the Eibishter punished him with these Yisurin. Not that he brought, even though he said Chaviv Alai Yisurin, the Eibishter punished him. And we'll continue tomorrow. We'll learn the story what happened with Rebbe, how he brought.